Good morning, everybody. Today is June 3rd, 2021, and I'm coming to you today to have a short discussion of devotional and a time in prayer. And yeah, so let's get started. I've got my cup of coffee here. I'm finishing it up, um, which I normally do in the mornings. And I've got another prayer request to add to our list. Um, Donna is a subscriber and a friend, and she is a friend to many in the yarn community. And she sent me a message, and she also posted on her Facebook page that her son Aaron went in for a procedure to stretch his esophagus, and I guess it was yesterday, and they were not able to do it because they found a mass, and they also found a pool of blood, and they did several biopsies, and they're waiting for the results to come in, and this young man hasn't been able to eat or drink anything. So please keep him in your prayers. So let me go over a couple of others. We had been praying for Jay, Carmen's husband. He's had complications from his hand surgery. So there's been a lot of numbness, and he's having issues with muscles in his throat and esophagus. And so please keep him in your prayers. There is a friend of Pat's who's having some major life struggles. Janice's boyfriend Jim has bladder cancer and kidney problems and has been in the hospital 3 times now. I have not heard an update on Kayla from Llama Mama Kayla. I've even looked on her Facebook page. I've seen nothing updated other than just well-wishers and friends sending her good well wishes. If anybody has an update on Kayla, would you please let the Yarnit community know? We are very, very much in prayer for her. And also, we're going to remember a Yarny sister has some unspoken prayers. And then April from Be Wild with April Lee is still coming to terms with her diagnosis of having Bell's palsy. So we've got a lot of prayers to remember. And if by chance, getting my sleepies out of my eyes, if by chance you are are friends with Granny D, most of you know her. I believe on her community page, she usually has an updated prayer list. So if you care to go over there and in your prayer time and lift those up. So let's go ahead and go to the Lord in prayer. Dear Heavenly Father, thank you so much for your greatness, your goodness, your power, your knowledge. Thank you for being all-knowing. Thank you for being right there in the midst of us when things are so dark. You are righteous, Lord. You are good. You are merciful. And we are in awe of all that you are and all who you are. And we come humbly before you, lifting up these prayers, these requests that fellow YouTubers and viewers and ladies and gentlemen have. We just lift them up to you right now, Lord. Please deal favorably with them, with us. Show us compassion. If it's your will, please bring healing, Lord. Work a mighty miracle in the lives of every single one of us and help us to see that it is you at work in our lives. Thank you for all the answered prayers that you answer every day. You are so good and faithful. You are right there listening, walking with us, caring for us, guiding us. I just don't understand, Lord, how you can look on us and see anything but disgust sometimes, because we are so sinful, so selfish. Please help us to be more like you. In your name I pray. Amen. Oh, okay. So today's reading is called When Teasing is Lying. And I have to tell you guys, some of the titles that this author uses is I don't know. Oh, I'm so sorry. I wish I could, do all this without yawning, but in the mornings, this is me in the mornings. Anyway, we're going to go with her title, and we'll be reading an excerpt from Northanger Abbey. And again, I don't know much about Northanger Abbey. I think it is the only book I have not read. I've only watched the movie once, and that was very briefly because I just don't care for this story. Anyway, I couldn't think of another excerpt from another book to do with it. So apparently Mr. Thorpe and Catherine are on some kind of a gig. It's called the gig, which is a carriage or some kind of a horse-drawn vehicle. Okay, so you do not really think, Mr. Thorpe, said Catherine, venturing after some time to consider the matter as entirely decided and to offer some little variation on the subject, that James's gig will break down. Break down? Oh, Lord, did you ever see such a little tippity thing, tittipy thing in your life? There is not a sound piece of iron around it. I would not be bound to go 2 miles in it for 50,000 pounds. Good heavens, cried Catherine, quite frightened. Then pray do let us turn back, Mr. Thorpe. Stop and speak to my brother and tell him how very unsafe it is. Unsafe? Oh, Lord, where is there in that? They will only get a roll of it. They will only get a roll if it does break down, and there is plenty of dirt. It will be excellent falling. Oh, curse it, the carriage is safe enough if a man knows how to drive it. A thing of that sort in good hands will last above 20 years after it is fairly worn out. Lord bless you, I would undertake for £5 to drive it to York and back again without losing a nail. Catherine listened with astonishment. She knew not how to reconcile two such very different accounts of the same thing, for she had not been brought up to understand the propensities of a rattle, nor to know how to know how many idle assertions and impudent falsehoods the excess of vanity will lead. Her own family were plain, matter-of-fact people who seldom aimed at wit of any kind, her father at the utmost being contented with a pun, and her mother with a proverb. They were not in the habit therefore of telling lies to increase their importance, or of asserting at one moment that they would contradict the next. Okay, that was the key right there. Let me read that one sentence again. Her own family were plain, matter-of-fact people who seldom aimed at wit of any kind, her father at the utmost being contented with a pun, and her mother with a proverb. They were not in the habit of therefore of telling lies to increase their importance, or of asserting at one moment that they would contradict the next. That was the key. So in that little portion there, Mr. Thorpe, he was like really bashing, and that's my word, bashing that other gig, saying, it was trash, he was trashing it, and basically trashing the person who owned it for not having a better rig. Well, then he turns around and he's like, "Oh, it's fine. It's fine. And if it does break down, you can roll around in the dirt." I mean, his whole conversation made Catherine very uneasy because she couldn't figure out, well, what's the truth? You're saying this, and then you're saying this the very next minute, and it doesn't mesh. So is it this or is it this? Well, the conclusion was at the very end that Catherine decided that Mr. Thorpe was saying all of this just merely to build himself up. And don't we know people like that today? I mean, they badmouth others, they put others down in order to build themselves up. And of course, if you come across that way to others, they're going to say, really? So-and-so is really going to be telling me how things are? I don't, that was silly, but I know we've all known people who've done that will say, "Oh, I'm just teasing." Really? Are they really teasing? I was always taught what comes out of the mouth comes from the overflow of the heart. And that's a proverb, and I can't remember where it was, but my dad always taught me that. And even today, every time I tease, I have to remind myself, wait a second, that's wrong. You don't say something that you don't mean, right? We should never do that. That's not a godly trait to have. Because at the root of it, when you say something that is untrue, it's a lie. And I think that's where the author was coming from in saying that teasing becomes a lie. So in the case of the story, he was basically lying about this other man's gig in order to make himself feel more important, and Catherine couldn't understand why he would do that, because the bottom line is when you want to make yourself feel more important, you have to put others down. And that is definitely not a godly trait, right? let's finish with a couple verses here. Let me read in James, and this is the verse that she recommended in the actual devotional. James 3, verse 17. But the wisdom from above is first pure, then peace-loving, gentle, compliant, full of mercy and good fruits, without favoritism and hypocrisy. Okay, and I found a verse in Proverbs, chapter 19, verse 14. May the words of my mouth and the meditations of my heart be acceptable unto you, Lord, my rock and my redeemer. May the words of my mouth and the meditations of my heart, because remember, I know it comes out of Proverbs, but I can't remember exactly where it comes. That is that verse where it says, out of the mouth comes the overflow of the heart. So if your heart is focused on bad, and I'm pointing to my heart, but you guys know that heart means your conscious, your being, okay? So from the outflow of your heart, the overflow of your heart is what comes out of your mouth. So we need to start with your heart. If our heart is pure, we will speak pure words. If our heart is evil, evil words come out. So let me read that again. May the words of my mouth and the meditations of my heart be acceptable unto you, O Lord, my rock and my redeemer. And that's Proverbs 19, verse 14. Those little numbers are hard to read, especially with their light color. Okay. All right, everybody. I hope you have a wonderful, wonderful day. And thank you guys for keeping all of those prayer requests coming. I really appreciate it. Thank you for praying for me. Those of you who have been praying for me, I am feeling those prayers. I appreciate it. You have a great day. We'll see you tomorrow. Bye-bye.